Willie Jackson, welcome to my podcast.
Kia ora, Dom. Good to be here.
Mate, it's great to have you here. We were just discussing this. I feel like I know you, but I think this is the first time we've met.
I think that's the thing when you're on radio and TV and all that sort of thing, we're sort of circling around each other all the time, eh? And you think you know people and you don't sort of meet them, really. You know?
Well, I'm so pleased to have you here on the podcast today.
Congratulations with your podcast. I think it's great. Had a little bit of a look at what you've been doing, and it's... you might be like Joe Rogan, become a billionaire. Is he a billionaire yet, or Rogan?
Probably, yeah. Different, economies of scale, right?
It is a different economy. He's something else, though, isn't he?
Yeah. You're a fan?
Rogan, I like Rogan. Very good. Fascinating because, he started off, he was a bit of a lefty, then he got sick of it and went a bit to the right, and he just wants to do good broadcasting. And what I found fascinating with him was, he wanted to interview, the different, Biden and all that lot, but they didn't want to do it, so he interviewed Trump in that, And all of a sudden he's back. I could understand why he was talking about Trump at least was being accessible, Trump knows how to play the media. That's how it goes.
Yeah, Kamala Harris, I think she wanted it done like on her terms, that rather than being at his studio, and she wanted it to be a 1 hour limit, and he requests 3 hours.
Yeah,
put
of course.
Some stipulations in place.
Rogan's fascinating life, and what I like is he has such a wide range of guests, and so I don't get into even though people will say, he's just a lefty and all that. Not really. I'm into I can work with the best of them who are on the right. I worked with Tamihere for years. Look at that. He was before he became the new Malcolm X. He was he was more down the Alan Duff track when him and I were working together.
What is your take on Trump? I suppose you can say whatever you want, because by the time you are potentially back in government,
yes,
he'll be gone.
I think it's obviously I don't support Trump's politics, but I found it fascinating the way he got in. I think he's a product of the Democrats, basically forgetting about the working class. He went in there and promised them, like people were just sick and tired of the establishment, whether it was Republicans or Democrats, and Trump just turned the whole world over. I was doing radio with Ellie Moore at the time and 2016 when he came on, and it was 2016 I think when he first came in. Poor old Ellie, she was having a few tears, and I was just fascinated by it all. I don't get worried about it too much, but I understand, because he's such a, he's so anti. I suppose anti. Some would say anti everything that people like me stand for, but I don't see it like that. I see it as half of America supported him, and I respect that. And I keep saying to him, I'd never vote for him, but I keep saying to my mates and all the ones that hate him, not everyone who supported Trump was a racist. Not everyone was, anti the left. There were just a lot of people who were forgotten in America. He tapped into that. So I think you just got to give credit where credit's due.
What about his communication style? Is he a maniac?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And but that's what works, doesn't it? You having been a former maniac on radio and very popular, maniacal works sometimes, just look at some of our great broadcasters. Paul Henry, total maniac. Exceptional broadcaster. Holmes was the same too. I knew Paul pretty well. He used to listen to our talkback all the time, and... he was off the edge, but brilliant. And I think that comes with the territory sometimes. If you want to do really well in these sort of positions or in politics, you never seen anything like Trump. It's just like, what the hell did we just see?
It's chaotic.
I watched him at the UN the other day, and he just a rubbish iron at the tangi, for the young fellow who got sadly assassinated. Charlie Kirk. And he was saying, Charlie and his wife, they're very forgiving. I'm not, and this was at the funeral. Just fascinating, Trump. So I'm no supporter, but I do understand. I understand the game.
You mentioned the UN just a second ago. Just to timestamp this conversation, so we're recording this at the beginning of October, and it was just a couple of days ago that your old mate Winston spoke at the UN and said New Zealand wasn't recognising Palestine as a state. What do you think about that?
Oh, he's a total disgrace. I did a Facebook on it. It went through the roof, and of course all the New Zealand First crew jumped on. How can you do that? Talk about Winston, but I just think it's time for us to be courageous. That's all. I've always been a Palestinian supporter, always, but I understand. I always understood the two-state solution, but it's not a two-state solution now. I was surprised by Winston going down that track. Embarrassed though, Now we're trailing behind Australia, Canada, the UK, and very much in the Trump position, aren't we? And when you look at the devastation and the hell that we're seeing in Gaza, and I'm no supporter of Hamas at all. I absolutely condemn what they did, but two wrongs don't make a right, Dom. Two wrongs don't make a right. So of course, people go, oh, do you support terrorists? No, I don't support terrorists. But I don't, when you see that misery, we're seeing it every day. It is a nightmare. It is so sad. Winston should have stood up, and it was a pretty... such a hugely disappointing decision from him, and I put a Facebook out and it just went crazy. But I thought he would have done better than that, because look, on the other side of things, he's a pretty capable foreign minister, isn't he? Not bad for an 80-year-old.
Do you like the guy,
Winston?
Yeah.
Sadly, yes. Sadly, yes. I do like him, and sorry there, my Labour mates who might be watching this today. I work with Winston, and it's a funny story, really, because... it's a funny story because when I first went into Parliament, I first stood in 96. And then in 99, Tamihere, JT and I stood, and JT used to hate him and used to have these effigies and burn him and all this sort of stuff. But I watched him support do you remember the Tight Five and all that sort of stuff? Tauhenare and all that lot? Yeah, and I watched him support them and he called the Labour Party out and he called them racists and everything. And I thought, gee, there's something to this guy. And then they betrayed Winston and I thought, huh? Then they went and did a deal with Jenny Shipley. Winston did the course. They all got kicked out, and he stayed in. So when I got in '99, I thought I'm going to get to know Winston. So when we met, we had a bit of a catch up, and sort of become mates over that time. Used to go out with him to the Green Parrot, and fascinating years. And then when I was on radio, of course, he used to come on with me on radio all the time. Every time he'd come on, the radio would go crazy. Talkback. They just loved him on Talkback. So I do like him, but complex, because he's just he's great company, and then he comes out with some of the most crackpot ideas, like what's happening there, and he's got this problem with New Zealand, right? He doesn't want it to be called Aotearoa. I mean, for goodness sake, cut it out, Winston. And he's got Shane Jones with him. Shane, I don't know if you know, is one of the best Māori language speakers in the country. And old Shane Pussycat Jones doesn't say a word, Old Jonesy knows, and Winston's going, no, we're not Aotearoa, we're both Winston. Cut it out,
Yeah.
So, no, fascinating character. Of course I like him, but, we'll have our battles, but those are just that's what happens. You have your battles. Doesn't mean you have to all hate each other.
I think one thing that people love about you is, first of all, you're bloody funny and you're very charismatic, but also
I don't know about that.
you say exactly what you think, and you tell it like how it is for Willie Jackson.
Yeah.
So we've established the relationship with Winston. What about some other people? Seymour.
What about Seymour?
You like the guy?
I don't know. I don't particularly dislike him. It might be neutral, because he's just got so much on my nerves over the last few years. I did call him a useless Māori. You remember that?
Yeah.
But what wasn't actually that. It was actually a useless Māori advocate. That's what I called him, and because he's so hopeless in terms of advocating for Māori. What disappoints me with him is that him and I worked together before. Like built a school together in 2015. And I worked with him on the euthanasia stuff. So he's very capable. But I just think that his treaty stuff is out of control. He should know better than that. I called him a liar in the house. Doesn't mean I hate him or anything. Him and I can see each other. We're quite cordial to each other. Because I'll give it to him. He's pretty capable. But I don't know. I've gone off him a bit over the last couple of but if we run into each other, I'm not the type to, because he has never abused me. We'll attack each other in the house, so we're cordial. He went over to Oxford recently, and I was in Oxford University the year before. So, but fascinating character. But you can see the people who he's got behind him. I think dangerous though, Dom. I think dangerous, and that's why I'm really disappointed with him, because I think he encourages a group in the country that. There's obviously some good people who follow Seymour. Let me get that on the record. But there's an ugly crew in this country that support Seymour. He knows them too. That ugly crew, they just hate people like me. They hate my guts. I've seen that for years. I see it on Facebook, and they love Seymour. Now, David probably wouldn't even... I don't think he'd even mix with these sorts of people. But there's an ugly, ugly element in New Zealand who just hate Māori. They just hate us. That's not the majority. Most Kiwis are good. When I'm out there, I enjoy New Zealanders. I'm proud of Kiwis. Come here, I'm proud of you and your ex. I'm good with you and the ex-missus, eh? Jesus, getting on well, eh?
You've got a business together. Wouldn't advise it for everyone.
No, but I look at guys like you. I look at the Sky TV team. I don't know if you saw, they're all into the real Māori and all that. I reckon that's the new New Zealand, you see. And David, through his idiot Treaty Principles Bill, has encouraged too many of this ugly mob to come on. So he'll sit in here with you and he'll go, there's no partnership. You would have heard him. In fact, I saw somebody sent me the cut. There's no partnership. Well, there is, because the judges said there was. 1987, and every Prime Minister's back there. Why are you so scared of a partnership, David Seymour? So what you're doing is encouraging, as I said, the ugliest, most racist mob in the country. I know who this mob is, you see, because they regularly send me emails and all, and they hate me, and I think, why do these people hate me so much? I'm not a person like I can show you people who don't like Pākehās. I can tell you people who'll say to you, Dom, you're just a guest in this country. I want to be your partner. I want to work with you. That's like anyone like me who sort of just advocates for Māori. I'm a pro-Māori person, but I'm a pro-Kiwi person. I support the working class too. But they say, no, Jackson's dangerous. He actually wants to take the whole country. He's a racist. And that's who David encourages. And that's why he disappoints me. His Treaty Principles Bill, he says, he called me a liar. That's because he was a liar. His lie is this. He says that, I'm not lying about the Treaty Principles. He wants to change the Treaty of Waitangi. And then he says that he doesn't want to. He wants to change it. So that's someone who's telling lies, and I've been quite open about it. He takes it on the chin. He can handle it. But, why change something that's working? And I think if you've travelled a bit, no doubt, Dom, you come back to New Zealand, you walk around, it's pretty good.
We're very lucky.
We're very lucky. They're good relationships. And I reckon, Dom, that I think New Zealand's changed, as you said, as you found out. I'm 64. I remember what it was like when I was 34, and it wasn't that bad then either. But it's got a lot. It's got a lot better as people have started to understand the treaty. A lot of our kids, Pākehā kids, and all that, all learning the reo. Fabulous, I think the language is there for everyone. I think Māori's there for everyone. That's what partnership's all about. And David doesn't want to go down that track. I think it's because he's too blooming hooked into his Atlas mates and rolling out their agenda or something along those lines. But it's really disappointing and discouraging, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. One thing I've got from doing this podcast for three and a half years now is that when you sit this close at a table across someone, it's generally impossible to dislike someone up this
How are you going to say you don't like me?
No. I'm saying anyone that's racist or says they hate Māori is like a general statement. There's so much of the Willie Jackson story to talk about, and I'm so excited to have you here to unpack
thanks very
it all.
much.
So, Willie Jackson, who is he away from the titles and the public roles?
Just a proud father and grandfather, and love my kids and mokapunas, and it's a funny thing really. We're talking politics. Politics is always with us, for people like me. But most of your your mates and all that sort of thing, they're like you, Dom. They're not really politics. They don't really, you just see people and you're not really into politics, eh?
No.
I just love, I love people. I enjoy people. That's why I love media so much, like yourself. Love radio, love TV. I used to enjoy talkback. I mean, I was doing talkback for 10 years I did talkback for. So I talkback and I just enjoyed it, loved it. So I enjoy people.
So you grew up in Porirua?
Poriroa, well, we left Poriroa when I was 10.
Yeah, and you lived in South Auckland ever since.
Yeah, in South Auckland.
Why do you love South Auckland so much?
I love it because of real people, I was brought up on the, I suppose, poor side of Māngere, with state houses, and same in Poriroa, we were in state houses and that, but we had a good upbringing, but when we were in Poriroa and when we first came to Māngere, you're in areas where people don't have much money. But Mum and Dad were always good parents, Even though, particularly when we were in Poriroa, we were in the middle of Blinken, once were Warriors country sort of thing, You had parties all around. But I was lucky in terms of my upbringing and what the values instilled in me by Mum and Dad.
Yeah, it seemed like you had really good parents. So Dad, Bob, was a wharfie.
Yeah.
Crazy good chess player.
Oh yeah, fabulous chess player.
And earned a degree at 40.
He did. He went to. Yeah, well, he was a first language Māori speaker, so he bombed at school and all that, and then came back and trained himself and got himself a degree, and over 5 years between 40 and 45. So yeah, he terrific, and he was a fabulous chess player. He passed that chess stuff on to my son, who's a bit of a gun. And I put my boy into King's College, and he was the top chess player there. It was quite funny because when we put him there, we'd been speaking Māori to him all his life. So he went to King's, and he was in the bottom class, because he could, his English was okay, but he was always making mistakes. Next minute, he trots off to the chess club, and he can beat everyone in chess, and these Chinese kids are going, "What class are you in?" I mean, these kids are like the cleverest kids in the country, and he's in the. I said to him, "Yeah, that's okay, son. You're in the dumbest class, but you'll beat them all at chess." So the old man, it's funny that chess. I wish my boy had because he was so good. I should have taken him out, because we've got one of our mates in Parliament whose name's escaped me. He's one of the best chess players in the country. I should have taken him to a top chess, because he's international chess master. Vernon Small, I think it's right. Yeah, Vernon, yeah. And he's top journalist. Great chess player. But I wish I had done that with Boy, because I would have liked to have seen how far he would have went. But yeah, the old man was, they were wharfies. The wharfies in those days, they'd only work about 2 or 3 hours, and then they'd be playing chess and drafts, and then they were going to the best labouring job in the country.
That's where he cut his teeth on the chessboard. Yeah. And your mum, June, New Zealand's longest-serving parole board member. Yeah. Yeah, and actually,
very humble beginnings. So, Mum, she was a cleaner to start off with. I said in Parliament, when I first spoke there, I said my mum used to clean the courts down there, and she went from cleaner to, we're very proud of her. CEO, she was top CEO, parole board member, got a damehood.
Yeah, I've got a photo here. This is your mum. Yeah. This is your mum getting
damehood, eh?
Her damehood.
And I'm not into damehoods. I told her to reject it, but she told me to go jump in the lake and go and hook up with my radical relation. She said, "I love the Queen, and if you don't like it, don't come along."
But look how she's smiling in that photo. It obviously means something to her.
I was so proud. She was so proud of it, eh? Oh no, I was. Look, I organised. We had 800 people there. John Banks and them all came, Len Brown, everybody came along, and because it was a year of the mayoralty. And I was just very proud of her, even though, as I said, I'm not into damehoods and knighthoods. I want us to do what Helen Clark said once, which was have our own identity and all that. But, she went from cleaner to 20 years on the parole board, man. It was incredible. And a great CEO. Man, we had some stories from her. So she saw the worst of our society in many ways. Mum always said that 99% of the country is okay, but there's a 1% that you cannot turn around. There's an evil side. And she said, "Son, you just can't turn them around." It's the evilness that she said that it's almost hard to describe. So, but she always felt you could turn around just about anyone else. I tell you, we used to see every blinking, you wouldn't believe what we saw when we were young, ex-murderers coming through the house, and they all used to bow their head to Mum,
Did she have any sort of, I don't know if this is even a conversation you had, but did she have any sort of perspective on whether evil people are born or made? She said her view was they were made, like some of them, if you're going to treat someone like an animal from the day they are born,
then they're going to act like an animal. You know, you know, baby can't be born evil.
Yeah.
But if the baby is treated like an animal, and she said some of these ones who are evil were a product of evil. You know, and you know, Mum was fascinating. We had a guy called and I'll say his name. His name was Les Green. You should look him up. And he was the longest serving, one of the longest serving prisoners in the country. It's like 28 years. And anyway, Harley gets out of prison, and he was also one of the most dangerous. Comes out of prison. Nobody. There's a big article. It's all over the listener. If you look back at his life, he's gone now. He got out of prison. Nobody wanted him. Everybody was too scared. Right? What does Mum do? Mum says, "Oh, come and stay with us at the marae." You know. So Mum brings him to the marae, and then he stays with us. And then I said, "Oh, he was pretty bad." Oh no, he was just a robber. He just was a bank robber, a very famous bank robber. I says, "Oh, okay, all right." Then the police talk to me, and they go, "You know, your mum's got that Les Green." I go, "Yeah." I shouldn't tell you this, I suppose. No, anyway,
That's good.
No. Anyway, so these people talk to me anyway.
Yeah, no, but it's painting a picture of who your mum's like, and it's obviously a lady that could see good in anyone.
Well, anyway, these friends of mine, they said, I shouldn't have said the police, but never mind. They said to me, "You know that Les Green, we don't have the proof, but we think he's murdered about 7 or 8 people, right?" I says, "What? Has Mum brought a murderer onto the marae?" And they go, "Well, we don't have the proof." And so I go to Mum, I says, "Mum, what are you doing? We got the koanga, you got a murderer down there." And she goes, "Oh, son, it was Mr. Asia days. You know, they just kill each other. They, you know, the bad people, and you know, like they all crooks. They're terrible people. One shoots this one, or one shoots that one. Who cares? Like they never touch the good people. And I don't know who. I don't know. I don't even want to know about it." And I said, "So we're going to leave him there?" And she said, "Yes, we're going to leave him there." And so it was. She was so crazy. And then I'll tell you, one Christmas, she puts on a party for all the judges, right? Because she's the senior lady of the parole board. Puts a party on at home, and Mum's got everybody serving. Anyway, she gets Les Green to be a waiter. So he's serving these judges, right? He's serving these judges. Unbelievable. And the judges are looking at him thinking, "We know this guy," you know. But, and she made him dress up, and Les goes around, and it was incredible. And anyway, about a week or two later, Mum says the judges remembered who my waiter was. I says, "Well, Mum, you didn't break the law. It was your home." You know, she had Peter Sharples there, and so Les Green, yeah, and he was an incredible. It was just an incredible history. So he stayed at the marae a few years. Had a bit of a sad end. I hate to kick him off the marae when I got a bit out of control, and he died on his own. But we gave him support till the end. But you know, the gangs came over when he came over. They thanked us. They thanked us for taking him in, and he actually didn't cause any problems in all those years. So, have a look up at his history. That was quite a history. He used to come to Christmas, and I tell you, it's amazing how people can turn their lives around, Dom. I've seen Mum did some incredible things, you know. I don't know if I'll tell you one other story before we move on. She was fearless. There was a terrible. No, I won't tell you that story. It's probably too late.
No, good self-censoring.
No, that's probably too much. Mum wouldn't want me to tell you that. But she's a person who would go to bat for some of the worst people, whether they were murderers, rapists, and she'd go, like when they were coming out, like she'd say keep them in. When they'd come out, Mum would go to bat for them and say, "Let them out now, bring them to me." And Mum would, and they'd go, "Oh, it's 3 months too early, June. Never mind, bring them out. I want, because if they're coming back into society, I want to get them right." And so that's the sort of stuff she would do. And she brought out, I tell you, Dom, some of the worst rapists and all that you would believe. We were nervous. They never reoffended. And the worst stuff for us was when she'd bring pedophiles onto the marae. And we were very angry about that. We had a huge fight over that one day. And she said, "Son, if I don't do this, who looks after them? I'm managing them. They will not step out out of line." So she cornered them off. And they never stepped out of line, because she said they step out of line, they know what they'll get, you know. And, stuff like that, are brave, courageous, and proud of her work and what she did. You know,
Yeah, I can tell, mate. I can tell. That's really cool.
And, you know, she got some of that Alzheimer's at the end. Not a good way for people to go, you know.
You lost her on March 28, 2022.
Yeah,
so it's fairly recently. Yeah. Yeah, it must have been difficult seeing such a proud woman decline with Alzheimer's.
In the last couple of years, particularly when you know, she was so vivacious and I couldn't stop talking, and then all of a sudden no more communication. It's one of the saddest things you can see. You know, it's like a walking dead. You know, they're alive, but it's like they're living dead almost. You know.
So how many years before her passing, was your proper lucid conversation with her?
Well, it's funny really because she got it. She was like 82 or 83 when she died.
Yeah.
She first started contracting it around 69, 70. She was actually all right till about 78, 79. You know, she was losing her she didn't know, you know, her short-term stuff was gone, but pretty good. And then in the last couple of years, full communications just shut down. So very sad, but that's life, Don. You know, and a lot of people have to go through that. You know?
Yeah, I've heard you talking about your school years, and you said you were a failure at school.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did that label affect the way that you saw yourself at the time? Obviously, you had smart genes. Like your parents were smart people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was at school. I could talk. You know, I was actually I used to win speech competitions and all that. So, I'm one of those people who was hopeless. You know, like I'd go in the exam and for some reason something used to happen. I don't know why. I used to be in some of the top classes in there, and I just. Something hit me. I was able to control it later on, but when I was like 15, because those were the days. You're a fair bit younger than me, eh?
I'm 52.
So you're 10 years.
I remember school C. You're talking about school C and second year, fifth.
Yeah, did you do all that?
100%. It was the worst fear ever being held back here.
Yeah. So I couldn't handle it, you know, and so I just thought. But I sort of always thought, oh, I'll work this out. You know, when I came out of school and all that, went into the works and all that, because I had you've got to have a bit of a plan, in life. So I thought, well, I'm not going to just stay on the chain and work on the chain and all that sort of stuff. I'll find a way out, and because you know in those days if you didn't get your school C or your UE, you were going straight to the factory, or you know you didn't get into any of the sort of flash jobs that were going. But I just think with you got to have a plan. It's funny you talk about school in the Labour Party. There's only Damien O'Connor and myself. We're the only two without degrees, two old buggers. You know Damien, don't you?
Yeah.
He's pretty neat, old Damien.
So when did you leave school?
I thought I was 17.
17.
Yeah.
Okay, and you
16,
went straight to AFCO or something?
I went into a factory and I went and worked on a farm with my grandparents for a year. Then came back and worked in the freezing works after that when I was 18. Yeah, and 7 years in the works. Yeah.
What was that like? I've heard you describe the freezing works as hellish.
Oh, it's hellish if you worked on the chain.
Yeah. What's the chain? What does that mean?
Like you do, you know, you're killing the sheep and cutting their throat, and you might have one job, and you've got your one job is one cut all day with a knife, and that's it. You know, you just have one cut, and you imagine doing that like that for 6 hours a day or something. So that, you know, like that was like when I first started working on the chain and all that. I thought, oh, bucket this. I know how to talk, so I used to go to the meetings and I saw the union stuff started happening, and I thought, oh, I can do that. And so I ended up being a delegate. Then I ended up being a union president. And when you're a union president, you don't have to work on the chain that much. You know, you're running meetings. So I found the way off. You know, and then I became a sort of full-time union official after that.
Yeah, and this is really young too, like 21 years
21,
old.
Yeah.
How was that? Like, how was that? Like, did you have imposter syndrome? Did you find older people you were dealing with struggle to take you seriously, being basically a kid?
Yeah. Well, no, not really, because I used to because I did a lot. You know, I did a lot of reading, and in the works you got to become a man pretty quickly, particularly if you're fronting for men. So I was a delegate for about 60 people, and there were a few women too, but mainly men. I was a delegate for 60 men, and then when I was a president for about 300-400 people. And no, they took me seriously because I was. I sort of, Dad had brought us up in politics, and I knew about good principles and values, and they quite liked it. And I was Māori too, and in those days, mainly the union officials were all Pākehā, and so all the Māoris liked it, and the Pacifica liked it. So it was a real honour, and I was in the works for 7 years. I was official for about 5 years, and then I went into the the unions with my Uncle Sid Jackson. I don't know if you remember him, but started working with him, and then went into the Service Workers Union with Mark Gaucher, and so I was a union official for about 17 years. Yeah.
You were sort of destined for a life in advocacy somehow, weren't you? With your family background?
Well, I suppose so, because, Dad was a strong advocate, but my Uncle Sid Jackson was the leader of the protest movement. He was the leader of Ngāta Matoa, and his wife was Auntie Hannah Jackson, this young Hannah who's in Parliament now, is named after her. That's her nanny, and she's really lovely, Hannah, and I told her how close I was to her nanny. So they were my, uncle was my role model, and then my other uncle was a guy called Moana Jackson. I don't know if you heard of him. He was a top legal Māori advocate in the country. It's my father's other brother. So they were strong advocates for Māori, and so from a very young age, I really do enjoy and find it a privilege to advocate for people. When I was union president, I was always negotiating wages. Plus, I used to manage a lot of the boys' wages, because they had no idea, they'd go and spend them in the pub and all that. So the girlfriends and wives used to ring me.
Is this when you got like a brown envelope with the cash in?
And I used to say, right, I used to do the budgets, and I go, right, just see, and I'd go and tell them, right, you're not getting a full wage this week, and and so the wives would get because sometimes I get plinging phone calls. Oh, I got no money, because the boys have spent the money down the pub. So it just was a good way of life for me, in terms of managing people's lives, good training, and as well as that, you're negotiating, you're advocating, you're speaking at big meetings, and you also have to be. You have to be very strong too, because we used to have strikes, and those were the days when we wouldn't have 1 week strikes, we'd have 5-6 week strikes, and that's hard, because you have to manage whānau, you have to manage families, and you have to make sure everyone's eating and all that sort of stuff. So for me, it was sort of impeccable training for later in life, and when I left the work, so I continued in that with the union organising, as well as doing lots of other things. I got into
So many other things. Yeah, freezing worker, bouncer, broadcaster, sports broadcaster, band manager, All Black manager, Frank Bunce, trade union leader, urban Māori advocate, politician. Out of all those, did I miss anything? Did that sort of take it all off?
Oh, I had a record label.
Did you?
Yeah, Tangata Records, with a guy called Tim Moon. I don't know if you've heard of Tim Moon. We did, our label was the most well-known Indigenous label in the country. We did the Once Were Warriors soundtrack, which was fantastic for the movie Once Were Warriors, and had Tamareneta and all them in there, and you would have heard Tim and them singing What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, south side of Bombay, great song.
Well, they were south side of part of my crew, they were, I tour managed them and all that sort of stuff. So that was a great time too, looking after. I love the Māori music. I saw so much talent in those days. But doing Once a Warrior soundtrack was one of the great things. I was funny actually. I was talking to someone about it, and Tamihere used to live by us. He was with a woman called Kim Willoughby.
Kim Willoughby, yeah, from When the Cat's Away.
Yeah. So they got
a son James together.
That's right. So I was with my first wife and Moana, and we were 3 houses away. So we were all mates. We all worked on radio together. And when I was bouncing, Tim used to come over and spar with us. Couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag, and hopefully he doesn't hear this. But he's my good mate, Tim, and couldn't fight to save himself. Anyway, he said he was going to be Jake the Mush, you see. So he used to last about 10 seconds because when you're bouncing, we used to train all the time at home because you had to, particularly in South Auckland. And Tim would drop him, and we'd go. He'd say, "Yeah, I'm going to do this Jake the Mush." We'd go, "Oh, you're too small for that. Just cut it out, Tim." Well, when he did it, wasn't he fantastic?
Oh, my God. So convincing.
We were so proud of him, And
I think what made it even more surprising was it was just off the back of Shortland Street as Dr. Ropita.
That's right.
So it was like just this transformation that just caught everyone off guard.
And they did the angles right, and it was 94. It was incredible, really, and. A lot of us, of course, really hated Once Were Warriors. We thought it was. being younger, I suppose, we thought it showed all the worst aspects of Te Ao Māori. So we protested on it, and Lee Tamahori, we said, you sell it. And Tim was saying, what are you doing? What's this? We're just acting, bro, and it was really quite funny. But as I got older, I thought, artists have got to do what they got to do, and I'm really proud of Tim and proud of Cliff Curtis, seeing what they've done, and you just got to, like, when I was younger, I think I was probably too judgmental, because although we loved Tim, but we just thought Once Were Warriors, like, God, could anything have gone? Was there anything positive about that family? They had child molestation, alcoholism, drug dealing, everything. And so it hit us a lot, because some of us, we were living right there. Like they shot the Once Were Warriors pub scene like less than a kilometre from our house. It was just around the corner. Some of my mates who were bouncing were in the pub scene. They all got part. So it was a funny time. I was bouncing for about 6-7 years. Yeah.
You enjoy that?
Yeah, I loved it, because
what did you learn about people?
Because you learn a lot about people, but you also got to look after people too. People are allowed to have a drink, and I worked in South Auckland. One of the pubs I worked in was called the St George. It was probably the roughest pub, along with the Flying Jug in East Tamaki, in St George.
There was a pub called the Flying Jug.
Flying Jug.
It's a bad name.
It's a bad name. No, that's exactly how it was. And that pub and my pub, St George, St George 86. You walked in there, you see what you saw in Once Were Warriors, you see 3 times when you walked into it, and this was in 86. It was like Once Were Warriors times 5, 7 of us used to work the bar, 7 of us, and like 3 or 4 fights a night, like, because drugs going around everywhere. It was just incredible. But I did it because I was working in the freezing works, and being young, I wanted to make as much money as I could, and I just and plus I love play with the guys, and we played league and all that sort of stuff, and you learn about people. Funny thing, I was at this tangi the other day, and I ran into some people who were from those days, and they said, you were with our brother, and I said, yeah, your brother got killed. One of their who was with us, he got killed in a car accident, and he was one of the bouncers with me when I was young, so those were good days. I mean, I did it from about 86 to, I don't know, about 92, 93.
Was your job as a bouncer to fight, or was it more just to like charm people over and sort of talk them down if they're on the cusp of fighting? Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's your first job, is to talk them down.
Oh, you would have been good at that, I reckon.
I thought so. Well, that's why I did it too.
You still got all your teeth.
Well, no. That's why one of the things I did was because most of the boys just scrappers, So I thought, I'll make sure I get a good cut here, because they can't talk; they can only fight. So I could. I used to go in and try and negotiate before anything would blow up. And I said, do you really want to fight my boys? We had Tongan boxing champion, and we had like the best team around, and I had ex-boxing champs working with me, and I said, and so most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time you could talk your way out of it, But it was for me. It was a good time, because I was head security, because they needed someone who could talk, so I used to lead, and you get an odd punch up, but most of the time it was pretty good.
And the band management stuff. You were the manager of Moana and the Moa Hunters. Moana. Did you guys marry and then you became the band manager, or? No, we were married early. Right.
Yeah, she was a great singer. And
Black Pearl. Black Pearl was a great song.
Yeah, we did that song.
A-E-I-O-U?
A-E-I-O-U. Gee, you remember the songs? That was 1990 A-E-I-O-U, which was a landmark song in terms of the reo. But I'm very proud of those days in terms of her and the band, and it was that Moa Hunter thing was. Those are the days, not like now. Everybody's singing in the reo and all that sort of stuff. Not in those days. It was really minimal, and so I had her, and obviously her, and then I don't know. You heard of Hinewehi Mohi?
Yes.
Hinewehi. So she came in and she did a deal with the guy whose name's gone out of my head. He had a studio in Parnell. and Hinewehi came in and did a big song too. So those were good days. I mean, we had Moana when I was managing the Moa Hunters, but on tangata we had Moana, we had Hinewehi, we had Emma Paki, I don't know if you remember her.
System Virtue.
Yeah, System Virtue.
Great song.
South side of Bombay, Damn Native, I don't know if you heard of Damn Native.
Yeah, Behold My Cool Style.
Yeah, so
I know.
we they were great, and then my first band was a band called Upheart Posse, who I took to the States. They were the first rap band in the country. Yeah, they were the first rap band. They were like a radical Māori band. They'd get up and go, yeah, too, and the new Pākehā's all racist, and they'd come into Ponsonby, and they'd be doing all this stuff. And at the time, all the young Pākehā kids around Ponsonby and them loved them. And they go, you're all racist. And they got this big following. Yeah, so 1988, 89, 90, they were quite big, Posse, and Murray Kamek grabbed them. I don't know if you know Murray.
Yeah.
And Murray had our Southside label, and he was running Southside, and then he had a rock label, and he had She-Hard on the rock label. So he was something else. Was it
so this sort of bands you were managing back then, was that like a frustrating uphill battle to try and get radio airplay?
So it's funny because when I got onto Radio Live, I ran into different people, and they said, "Remember when you used to come in and give us a hard time?" I said, "Yes." I told you all you're a disgrace, Play some Māori music, eh? Why does it? Because you're trying to find a way into mainstream, eh? And had some real laughs with program directors through the years because they had their own set format. My FM had just started, and my mates and that were involved with that. I was particularly irritated with them because I felt that they just adopted that American format straight away. And I said, any dummy can do that. Well, the challenge is, can you play some Māori music? So we had they were my mates, but I was irritated with their strategy early on because they weren't playing the Māori music either. But, they turned around later on and they started playing some of the Māori music, and it took a long, long time before we broke through. But those were challenging days. But, those are days when, program directors were scared to go outside the format. So it wasn't just Māori music, actually, to be fair. Kiwi music wasn't being played either, if you remember.
Yeah, there was talk always of a quota.
That's right.
The closest you'd get to some Kiwi music is maybe a tiny bit of Crowded House.
That's right. So you had to be like a superstar like Neil Finn or Tim Finn. But, I really enjoyed those days. And guys like Neil and Tim Finn were great for us. I mean, They did a big show for us, Moa Hunters, when we went overseas. We went to New Orleans and played with the Neville brothers, and Neil and them gave us a lot of support, So great days.
I read an article that Moana was involved with, and she described you as really annoying, and that was part of the reason why you divorced?
Probably.
Is that fair?
I can't recall that article. I thought actually it was the other way around.
You probably faults on both sides.
No, but we're all right. Here and I, we're mates,
Yeah.
Well, you're a good example of that, yeah.
Researching this podcast, I saw a piece of you debating in Oxford last year, and the TV piece was broadcast on her TV show.
Yes,
and the story was done by your son.
Yes. No, well, he's a sort of great producer, my boy, and so him and her have their own TV show on Whakaata Māori television, and so he came over with me to Oxford, and when he said, right, I'm coming, because I was wanting to get Julian Wilcox or someone else, because I thought, I can't bring my son to Oxford, it'll look too sort of in-house, and Seymour jump up in the air, and he goes, I'm coming, and that's it, and I said, you better do a good story, son, and he did a terrific story. It was a great event. I took with my wife now, Tania, who's been my wife for the last 20 years. She came with me. She's actually in Oxford right now, Tania. Yeah, she's over there now, believe it or not. And we just so enjoyed it. It was fantastic. But my boy, he did a great show. It was really terrific, and so I was able to hold my head up high. And the other good thing was we won the debate, so that was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching that. You've done so much public speaking. Do you get nervous before something of that magnitude?
I think it's good to get a little bit nervous, eh? I mean, this you're a bit of a big time presenter yourself, and I think if you don't get a little bit nervous, something wrong. Because I think you can go wrong when you're just a bit too relaxed. That's what I've found in over the years. Like if you think, oh, it's, and the minute you start winging stuff, I think you can make mistakes.
Yeah.
Even though I can wing stuff, and I'm sure you can too. But you should always be prepared, And one of the things I know with speakers, and just talking to people as they go through life, I always say you always got to take a risk sometimes when you do a speech. Or, most of the time it'll come off. Now and then it might fall flat. You had that experience?
But when you've done enough of it, you learn how to get yourself out of holes that you put yourself into. But at that Oxford debate, there was a line that you had for, I think it was to a heckler or an opponent.
Oh, yeah.
It was a hell of a line. Was that in the back pocket, or was that off the cuff?
Yeah, that was the, no, because we.
So you've been shutting me up for 200 years or something
that's right.
like that?
We were waiting for a question like that, so it might have looked like it was natural, but, which is, because I got a great prepper, my man in Wellington, a guy called Bronson, he's who you've been dealing with, and so he's a terrific prepper, or Bronson, and we sort of prepped. I mean, you got to prep, we went for a few hours saying, well, what if we get that question? What if we get that question? Because you can die on stage, and that's right, and. Yeah, that's right. And they wanted to jump in, and I said, "Look, we've been waiting 200 years for this moment. So you never had a Maori before." Hey, Martima Davidson's going over in November.
Wow.
Yeah. So David Seymour went over. He was over there recently. I was there, and now Martima. Which it's just a wonderful. You been to Oxford?
No.
Beautiful city. Oh, beautiful.
And what about Frank Bunce? When did you end up managing Frank Bunce?
Now, I've got to put that in the right... Buncey has been my mate for many, many years. And I don't know how many people I keep trying to tell is that I never really actually managed Frank Bunce. It just keeps coming out. But I did, we were great mates. But for some reason, some media, I did give him advice and I told Buncey, tell them I don't actually manage you because a manager gets money and you don't pay nothing.
Free advice. Free advice, not a manager.
That's right. Well, what happened was, I tell you, because Frank, we've been mates since we were kids, because we all went to school together. And, he comes over home and he goes, oh, geez, I just got laid off from the rubbish trucks, and he's like 29, 30. And I says, for a start, bro, you normally wouldn't even say you were working on the rubbish trucks, But, he goes, oh, don't get smart. And I go, you're so liberal with that, eh? Because Buncey was Frank's real clever, he can do any job, but he just can't be bothered, eh? Likes training. And I said, so now you're redundant from the rubbish trucks and you've been an Auckland rep. He wasn't in the All Blacks. So he goes, oh, can you do me a deal? So what I did do was, I did do a bit of negotiation for him. I tried to tie him up with a contract with Canterbury Bankstown. And cool. A guy called Peter Moore was the chief executive of Canterbury Bankstown. And I said, I got this guy, just played for Samoa. Can we get a contract? And he goes, 25 grand. I said, 25,000. He was just finished the 91 World Cup. He must be worth 100. No, 20. I've seen him, Willie. You don't try it on me. I've seen everyone. I know you're a union guy, And he goes, it's 25,000 or it's no deal. And I come back to Bundy. And so Eric Rush was advising, because Eric Rush, I had my union office and Rushy's had his office around the corner. He was a lawyer. So we were both helping him. So all of a sudden people started saying we were managers and all that. So we never really were, but we're just helpers and advisors and supporters. Anyway, we said 25 grand. He goes, oh, I don't know. Oh, maybe I'll do it. Next minute, Laurie Mains gets in. Peter. Oh, the guy who was running North Harbour Rugby. He was the coach over there. He got in touch on behalf of Laurie Mains, and they said, if you play like you played for Samoa, you'll make the All Blacks. And they gave him a bit of a job over on the North Harbour. And next minute he played for North Harbour. Next minute he made the All Blacks at 30, and it was fantastic. No, that was 1992. 1993, John Tamihere gets injured. Remember John Tamihere?
Yes.
Gets injured for Canterbury Bankstown. Then Peter Moore rings me and he goes, hey, Willie, that Frank Bunce is good, isn't he? He goes, oh, gee, I've been watching him with the All Blacks. Gee, he's good, isn't he, Willie? He goes, we've got an injury. And I said, well, how much? He goes, 100,000. And he goes, and that was huge money then. I went back to Bunce. He goes, well, what do you reckon? Because he's an All Black, but he's making, I don't know what his money might have been making, 50k a year or something. Anyway, we thought about it and we kept talking about it. And I says, mate, I went back to Peter Moore and I says, what if he gets injured? Oh, that's too bad. I says, oh, no, we can't do it. Frank said, can't do it. And I says, you're 30 now, 31. Some 20-year-old will break your arm and that'll be the end of it. But it was interesting, he would have been sensational in league. But he was a great All Black. And, we were so proud because he represented us in Māngere and South Auckland, and great player watching him. We were all at Manukau Rovers, and fantastic to watch someone like that. And Frank's one of the good guys of life,
He's wonderful. You meet him. He's such a nice, kind guy.
Neat guy, got the young wife, I think, he had about 5, and I won't talk about Bunsey too much. But anyway, he's a very he's a married, very happily married man now with his young kids. Bunsey's like 63. He's the same age as me. 63. I think the wife's, she's a fair bit younger, but he's doing well. But one of the great talents of South Auckland, I was so proud of him. We have Eric Rush, Frank, Jonah Lorme. I met Jonah when he was young, and it was just great to see him, and really proud to see that South Auckland talent come out.
Yeah, you talk shit about everyone.
In a good way.
Does anyone? Oh no, it's so much fun.
One of the things Rushy said, I think Eric said it to me. He says, "Well, if you can't talk crap about your mates and to your mates, then they can't be your mates, right?"
Well, I'm the same. I think I say to people, roasting is one of my love languages. But does it get you in trouble?
Not really.
No.
Not really. My daughter always says, "Oh God, Papa, can you just do something and say something just nice, straight? You say something nice and then you rubbish them." So, because I'm the chair of our marae, and, you just got to have a bit of fun, I think that's what JT and I had over 7 years, John and I had that. People loved it because we used to just rubbish each other, Our wives, Tanya and Owadang, they used to worry because they thought we were going to have punch-ups in the studio. She said they rushed over there once because we were yelling at each other in the studio, because he used to drive me crazy because, he was so, he was like a blinking, he was like a Winston, in the studio. He'd be running all this, he was Mr. Right-wing politician in those days, so... And so he was running the right-wing stuff and calling me a radical. And we'd just it'd just blow up. And poor Holmes rang me. He'd say, I've never heard anything like it. He goes, it's just compelling. I can't stop listening to it. That's why when we finished, mate, I was really sad. I was sad. I thought 7 years. And yes, what we did was terrible. And I apologise, and I apologise again today, but you reckon we could have got a second chance? When I think about all the mongrels who've been on radio like you, and no, you think about it, that blinging Zane Kirby, he should have been bloody thrown in the blimmin' Auckland Harbour, Zane. Thane Kirby, Thane used to work for us at George FM. Oh my God, he was a blinking disgrace, Thane. Great talent, but, look at all this stuff, those boys on the rock. When I think of all the things that had happened, Paul Holmes, when he called somebody a cheeky darkie.
That's right, Coffee and Ann from the UN. Yeah.
Heather Duplessis-Allen, when she insulted the whole Pacific. Those boys, the top marks, they gave Ranginui Walker's phone number away on air. I think of all the things that happened on radio, and I thought what we did was the worst. It wasn't good, but I felt really sad about it, because I think that we played a part in radio that has never been done before, and maybe not done since, in terms of introducing Te Ao Māori to mainstream. We brought Hone Harawira on because he didn't like punk hours and going on Main Street. Tariana Tudia, Donna Awatiri when she got out of jail. It's incredible radio. And I felt that at the end we should have been given the dignity of signing out properly, or being, but no second chances for us. Just kicked out. We won the top talkback host in the country. For me, Dom, it was the most regretful thing that I've ever been part of in my, my work life and career. It was the saddest thing, because it was a guy called Mitch Harris brought us on. And Mitch was a great, he was great. Bringing us on, and he helped negotiate our contracts with Breed Impey. And to have that opportunity in mainstream in terms of two Māori advocating views was
unheard of at the time.
Unheard of, and even today, what I loved about it is it gave me an opportunity to cut, because JT was always trying to say, well, he's a separatist, he's this, he's that, and a load of rubbish, and then you get to Kiwis, and so you get around the country, and we see people down in Greymouth, and they go, that John, he always tries to paint you like a radical, Willie? I said, he's a mongrel. Okay, and it was such a wonderful 7 years, and here we are in 2025. Who's the radical? John Tamihere running the Māori Party, and I'm in the Labour Party.
Yeah, I wondered about that, the dynamic of that show, because as you've said, 7 years, it's an incredible long run. It was a phenomenal show you had, and as I can't agree anymore with Sir Paul Holmes. That was a compelling listen, because you're hearing these two guys and you think they hate each other, but you're like best mates though.
Yes,
how did that look in commercial breaks or at the end of the show each day?
Sometimes it would get a bit touchy. I'd have to walk out because I thought I'm going to punch him, or I thought he was going to punch me, right? And because we can't help, that's been our background too. We went into a fight for life once because Dean Lonergan said, right, will you guys fight in this fight for life? We went, yeah, we'll be in. And so we went down and had our own fight down at the ABA, and then he said, oh, no, you fellas, you can't fight, because I was fighting Bill English. I don't know if you remember that year. Bill English, and they wanted someone to fight Bill English, and Lonergan says, no, you guys can fight. We'll get someone else to fight Lonergan, to fight Bill English. But we were, we from South and West Auckland, and we'd get real angry with each other. We'd walk out, and then we'd come back in, and then we'd have a laugh, we'd go for a beer, and, we never ever had a punch up. The only time we ever did was when we first sort of got together, which was before radio, and we were doing the urban Māori thing in the 90s, and I didn't like how he was carrying on, so I said, step outside, and this was at my mother's, and he said, yeah, okay. And so we were walking outside, and Mum jumped in the middle. She said, cut it out. I just got so sick of him, mate. I thought, I don't know if I would have. We were young, who knows? Young and crazy, but we were walking out the door, and Mum jumps in the middle, It's 1996 or something, I would have backed myself then. I was pretty fit, but he's pretty fit too. He's a New Zealand league representative and all that. So, those were great days. And the funny thing was, in 2016, I was on radio, because he finished, because they cut him, and I carried on with Ellie Moore, and I had decided that I did want to go to Parliament, and so did John. So we started. That's when we both thought we would go. So I thought I was going with the Māori Party, and he thought he was going with the Labour Party. But it just turned around and went around the other way. That's why today he's running the Māori Party, and I'm involved obviously in the Labour Party. So
how often do you guys speak?
Sometimes we'll speak too much, 3 times a week maybe, and then we might have 2 weeks breaks, and then we'll have a catch up. We're part of each other. Our families and all that sort of stuff.
Is he your best friend?
I don't know about that. I don't think, we're just good mates and for relations, he's, no, I don't know about that. But I think we both deny that, but we're good, I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud of the way he came back after that Auckland Mayoralty stuff.
What was that?
You remember he went for the Auckland Mayoralty against Phil Goff?
No.
Yeah, that's only 5 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, and it all went up in flames, and it was a bloody mess, and oh God, he just typical JT. But he came back, and then he said, right, I'm gonna get this Māori Party thing going. And he got it going, and look where they are today, And so I'm proud of what he's done, but he's still got a lot of work to do in terms of managing that team going forward.
And you're proud of your radio show together those 7 years?
Oh, it was a wonderful time.
What is some of your best on-air memories?
Oh, there were so many.
There was a lot of laughs. I just remember there being a lot of laughs.
I remember him running.
A lot of really heated debates as well.
I remember him running Stacey Jones down. He said, that Stacey Jones wasn't up to scratch, in the war, because we used to do the league. And I sent Stacey a message. He was going, next minute, an hour later, Stacey walks in and he goes, what's Stacey Jones doing here? What's that Stacey Jones doing here? And Stacey walked into the gym, stuff like that. You have little pranks like that, and going over to Donna Awatiri when she just got out of jail. We got a lot of there was so much stuff. It was such an opportunity, and it was great money too. It was, in those days it was it was a lot of money, as you know. You being one of those rich guys who was getting all big contracts, you and your missus. There was a lot of money around radio then, eh? But we were. We didn't do much prep, like we did no prep, like we were walking in as they were playing the Bling and the soundtrack sort of stuff, eh? So, but it was pretty. It was just an opportunity to advance Māori working class, but also have a bit of fun, have music, and also show New Zealand a side of Māori that they'd never seen before. And so we've got so many supporters online, and not just Māori, but Pākehā, it was real working class, and it was just terrific. We had taxi drivers. I mean, I'd done a lot of jobs, from politics to TV. John and I actually ended up with a TV show on TV1 after that. We got 1 year on TV, we got one series, but nothing touches, nothing touches radio, does it, in terms of that personal touch, I had a TV, you're talking about what I did. Between 2004 2010, I had a weekly current affairs show on TV called Eye to Eye. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah. And we did about 120 shows, and that was I love that. Bill Ralston, I got that through Bill Ralston and Claudette Hoherty, who was my producer. But nothing quite touched radio in terms of touching people's lives, and
just that connection,
that connection.
Yeah, 100%.
It's something special, and I loved it. I loved it with John. I enjoyed it with Ali Moore. I thought this is a challenge, with Ali. She's such a good friend, and she was a bit controversial, because her and her hubby had broken up, and
Simon Dello.
Yeah, and she was in a lesbian relationship, so it was all controversial, and I got her talking about it, and she's really neat, hey, and her and her partner, she's really lovely, her partner, and so I did 1, 2, 3 years with Ali, and then I think she finished about 2018, 2019, but I mean she's done really well. Just done a book recently. Yeah. I'm proud of her, proud of what she's done too. She's a very brave, courageous woman, Ali.
Yes, so that radio show, so after 7 years, it all sort of blew up, and it was like a lot of people won't even, it's such a long time ago, a lot of people won't even remember, but it was 2013, it was a thing called Roastbusters. How do you feel reflecting on this now?
Oh, as I've said, it remains the biggest regret. What happened was a young woman, I'm not sure I don't know who it was. That's the thing that really irritates me, is that they never found out who it was. She never came forward. She rang in and she was having a few problems. We weren't concentrating at the time. Mm-hmm. We weren't concentrating, and so we gave some very offensive responses, and but it's 3:30. We're finishing at 4 o'clock. I don't know what happened, but. Anyway, it wasn't good. Wasn't good response. Mary Chapman, our producer, has been a great producer. She thought that it sounded fine. She replayed it overnight, and then it just blew up. And it just blew up. And as I said, Mike King had rung me and said, "Oh, I don't know about that. Radio show you guys did. Geez, that wasn't sounding good." And when I say it blew up, man, it blew up. Like we were on 6 o'clock news for the next couple of weeks. We were. They shut the show down. They sent us home and they said, "Don't go into the public, because you'll be attacked." Well, that wasn't true, of course, because we went everywhere, So I said, "Don't be careful about this, because we do have support from our communities." And the other thing is, I says, we are big supporters of women. It was just a bad mistake, and I wanted us anyway. They basically said, "Oh, you can come back, but we don't want JT and all this sort of stuff." And I said, "So that's the end of the show." I was going to finish too, but then I sort of thought reputation is everything. So as you know, and so I thought I would go back, but I don't like how we were treated. I think that we should have been warned. The show should have come back. We should have been given an opportunity, just like as you said, people like Holmes, people like Heather Duplessis-Allen, like Mike Hoskins, like the top marks when they did the Ranginui Walker stuff in the 80s, like The Rock, who've been done over. I think you've been done over a couple of times too, eh?
Oh, by the broadcasting sector. Anyone that has any sort of impact on the air has to be polarising. You have to sort of dance that line a little bit.
You sort of think, well, I might have done something stupid, and we did. But do you? What, don't us Maoris get a second chance?
Yeah. Well, it does seem unfair that 7 incredible years on the air, and then it just boils down to your worst moment. Which seems kind of unfair.
And when you
did that change you as a person in any way?
You have to be strong, because I don't think it. Because I don't think it changed me particularly at all. I've always been a person who's try to be a people's person, and when I say it didn't change me, maybe that's wrong. I was a bit more careful after that, I think the lesson I learnt was on radio, Blinken, make sure you're listening to every word and line sometimes, So that's where I was a bit more careful, because, people are ringing you for advice sometimes. You counsel them and all that sort of stuff. So, but, to this day, I still feel sorry for that young woman, but again, the strange thing about that was there was no complaint. We never knew who she was, I apologise and apologise now. I don't resolve from that. But I don't think I've ever said that. I don't think I've said before that I don't think that we were treated well. And I don't think we were treated well. I think we deserve to be disciplined and all that, but I'm always been a person for second chances, third chances, and I thought we should have been given a second chance, given our service, but got nothing. Show was shut down, that was it, gone. And that was such a big part of New Zealand radio in many ways. I remember running into Mark Ellis, and he said to me, I'd love to have come on radio with you, and I didn't know Mark either. He came up to me in the street a few years ago and says, you're Willie Jackson, gee, I would have loved to have come on with you and Tamihere and all that, and he's a bit of a gun in himself,
incredible broadcaster.
Mark Ellis. So, so I know that guys like Mark Ellis, Paul Holmes, Ian Fraser, who was
former boss of TVNZ.
They all listen to the radio, and so whatever, I know what happened in the end, but I remain very proud of those 7 years that him and I did.
Was that you've had a lot of high-profile jobs. Is that the biggest adversity you've gone through? That big public shaming? It was massive, eh? The only thing I could probably compare it to that other people might understand is like the Paul Henry Sheila Dixit thing, which was massive.
That was massive, eh?
Massive. I think it's the same sort of thing. You guys were like public enemy number one for a week.
We were for about a month. We were on the 6 o'clock news, and so John and I didn't do social media, so we didn't even know what Facebook. Well, that's how dumb we were, we didn't even know what we heard about Facebook, and we didn't know how to do it. We could barely send texts. So they go, have you been reading? No, we haven't, because, I got onto Facebook when I started in Parliament in 2017, and that I thought I'd better learn about this Facebook, right? Honestly, all the stuff had come through, we'd start, we were so useless technically, Got ourselves up to speed a bit later on, but in those days we barely could get a blimmin' reader. What is that saying? We'd bring people in, and we didn't realise that Facebook had gone crazy, and they had our heads in nooses and every blinking thing. It was incredible, the response, and it went like that for a good couple of months. And the good thing, like you do learn stuff from it. And I learned to be a bit more careful, but it also, in terms of adversity, you got to come through there, and what drives me sometimes is the haters, because they go, that'll be the end of Tamihere and Jackson, I said, well, we'll see, because we were running our organisations, and, within 6 months, him and I had landed the biggest contract in that any Māori organisation had ever got, and we started setting because our heart, while I love the media, our heart has always been in the community. I love working in the community, I love being CEO for our organisation, Manukau Urban Māori Authority, love chairing our marae, so same with JT. So, when you see the work on the ground and you see you're able to change people's lives, that's what my biggest love is, even though I've loved radio and TV. First and foremost has been my work on the ground, and that just got more and more and more. And You know, that was in 2013, and in 2025 we didn't die, did we? We're still around.
We're still going.
We're old buggers, but we're still around.
Did it have any sort of like detrimental or negative impact on your mental health, or that of your family and loved ones around you?
I was, I'm pretty resilient, but it was fair. It gets upsetting for. My wife wasn't Tania. She was very unhappy. Because she could see how much it meant, and she knows who you are as a person. And she knows it's not you. That's right. That's right. And she doesn't like anyone to judge, because I'm hugely supportive of women. And particularly with my board at the time. I tell you, it was that sort of hung over me for a few years, particularly when I started in Labour in 2017. When I went into Labour in 2017, I think that I was the most unpopular and most controversial candidate in the history of Labour. I'll never forget that, because I thought, because Andrew Little had approached me, I know I'm moving this on a bit, but, I go into Labour, Andrew, it's going to be great, and, because they wanted me, obviously, because I had good profile, and I thought it was just going all right, it's not going to blow up or anything, and then the word got out, and that I was standing, and next minute we had a big press conference, and in Waitangi, and all the press are there. I was feeling quite good about myself. And they said, yes, Willie Jackson's going to be standing for Labour, blah, blah, blah. And then Andrew says, I've got a bit of a problem. It's a bit of a few complaints. I go, okay, Andrew, I suppose you were expecting that. And he goes, I says, so you got a few complaints? He goes, yeah, 400. I says, 400? And he goes, yeah, there's a 400-strong petition against you joining the Labour Party. This is in 2000. So now I'm looking at him going, what? I thought you checked this all out before,
So this is from like party members and other politicians in the party?
I found out from some of the MPs too, but the petition was all party members of the Rainbow crew, a lot of our women. And I thought, and I'm looking at the complaints. He did not support the homosexual law reform. He did not support the same-sex marriage stuff. Well, I actually did. And I was looking at that, and I says, no, I supported all this. I says, that's JT. That's JT. This is all John Tamihere. I ring JT.
Oh, you've been lumped in together.
Yeah. And I ring JT up, and I go, hey, I'm getting blamed for everything that you. And he goes, bro, just blame me. And so I says, what? So I went and met with the Rainbow crew, and like they got a surprise. I said, 100%. I've supported homosexual law reform, 100%. Oh, didn't you? I says, that's the other Maori. That's the other. I said, I know, he's my brother and all that. I says, but he's your bro. I says, yeah, but sometimes bros have the different views. You must have mates like that.
Absolutely, we're not the same person.
I says, why do you think the two Maoris? Well, and they go, well, what about the same sex, marriage stuff? I says, 100%. Oh. I said, didn't you listen to our show? And they went, no. They said, because we thought, I said, no, but I always had the different view. Oh, and then everybody started pulling their names off the petition, and and okay,
it dies down.
But also the MPs weren't particularly happy either. I mean, Grant Robinson wasn't too happy, and Jacinda wasn't happy. No one liked me. I tell you, it was like, and I said to Andrew Little, did you research here, brother? It'll be all right. I tell you, we got there.
What's it like then, walking into that room as a new Labour MP, knowing that heaps of your new teammates don't want you there?
No, well.
How do you overcome that?
No, well, when I first went in, I wasn't an MP. I was just a candidate. So I wasn't, so I had to prove myself. And then what happened was Andrew was the leader, and next minute he got thrown out, and Jacinda came in, and then my mate said to me, you got no chance now. Jacinda won't like you, And so I thought, okay. And then, so what I did, I thought, man, I this is my life. I know how to organise, I know how to run campaigns. So I just went and fronted her up, and I said, look, I can leave now if you like, And she goes, oh, no. I says, no, I can, I know you guys don't like me, you, Chippy, Grant, I mean, Grant got really irritated with me when I asked him, what do you think you could be the first gay Labour leader? And he got all twisted it, and I was only doing a devil's advocate question. I think he's great. And he told me, because we're good mates now, we're all great mates. But he said, I just thought you were just talking like JT, and we hate JT. They all hated They all hate JT. Why are we talking about him all day? We've been talking about him through the studio. But he goes, and I said, so you judged me on that? And he goes, yeah. Anyway, we I tell you, I said to Jacinda, you want me to go? I'll go. And she goes, I says, look, I know you all hate me, so I get it. I says, look, I understand. I was on radio. I don't know if you guys actually listened to the radio show, because like a lot of them, they just hated some of those views. But if they had to listen properly, they would have seen I always stick up for the underdog. And she goes, oh no, Willie, you just do your job and all that sort of stuff. We'll see how it goes. So I did that with her for the 8 weeks that she was in. She got in, and she saw me working at ground level, work really well with the teams, and then I got in. And then when I got in, she made me a minister. And so she said, "Oh, and then we just become mates." And it was a real privilege to be a minister with her. And people's views changed because they really get to know you, because they didn't know me. I'm a loyal person. Yes, I was a Māori Party person. I helped with the setup of the Māori Party. I was a former mana motuhake leader. But once I joined a crew, I support that crew, and that's what I did. And Jacinda, she was so. She was such a good supporter, and it was quite funny, because as I said, I hated JT, and then JT said, "Hey, can you get me a?" Once I was a minister, can you get me in with that Grant Robinson? And I says, "You going to behave?" Yes, okay. So I send the crazy man down to see Grant Robinson. Anyway, and Jacinda says, "Oh, it's going to be all right." Yeah. So John goes and meets with Grant Robinson. Next one on my phone goes, and Jacinda says, "Willie," and I says, "Yes, hi, Jacinda. JT just threatened to punch Grant Robinson up." I said, "What?" She goes, "Your friend, who you said," so I just said, "your friend, who you said would be all right, had just threatened the Minister of Finance." I says, yeah, just ignore him, and then poor old Grant, he's got this crazy, and next one, and so. And then JT comes out and I says, "What did you do?" And he goes, that's better, typical. I said, "You didn't?" "Oh, no, I just all talk and all that." I says, "Well, you made these Pākehās nervous, you're a psycho." And he goes, "Tell him to get over it, But anyway, we laugh about it today, but I'll never forget it. And Jacinda rang me, "Willie, your friend has just threatened to punch over the Minister of Finance." And so, but we became good mates, Jacinda and I, and took a little while, because, you got trust issues, I understand that, and became mates with her, and obviously Grant later on, Robinson, and Chippy. So it's been a privilege to have been a minister with them and an MP with them over the last 6-7 years now.
Yeah, how do you feel about what's happened to Jacinda since then?
I think
some terrible stuff,
Terrible, man. Terrible.
Makes you ashamed to be a New Zealander sometimes.
I hate people who threaten her. That makes me sick. She was over there with. She was just at Oxford with my wife Tanya and others over there, and because they're celebrating this woman who got a degree. Makareti Papakura. Oxford University gave her a degree, and Jacinda's staying in Oxford now, so she went along to honour things, and all the Māoris just love her, But I don't like how these people act towards her. She, I think most Kiwis, I know they're saying all the, this ugly side who I talk with, who hate Jacinda, they hate my guts. They make out that all New Zealanders hate. That's not true. It's just that hate crew. They try and be intimidating in that Dom, and I really feel for her. And I think she has security with her all the time.
Really?
Yeah. From what I've seen. Yeah. Well, you have to, because some nut might just jump out and have a crack at her.
Yeah.
So it was a proud time. It was a privilege to be with her, and then Chippy came in and. well, it didn't go down too well, but hey, that's politics, you know.
How often are you getting told off by whoever's the leader? And what does a telling off look like? Like I know that Jacinda told you off for that interview with Jack Tame in 2022, which I watched the other day because I read some articles about it. I watched it. It was fine.
I still can't get over it.
So you said sorry, but you weren't really sorry, eh?
Well, you had to say sorry. But you watched. See, it was one of the most fascinating responses I've ever seen to an interview. I tell you, like I said, so my mate down there, Thomas Coughlin, says it's a train wreck. I'm thinking. I mean, I've done hundreds of interviews, many interviews. I've done a lot of good interviews with Jack too. Jack sends me an email straight after. Oh, that's a great interview, right? It was a pre-record. So our crew saw it before because Grant Robinson was on the TV on the Sunday. So our people saw it and no one thought there was a problem. Mr. Coughlin says, oh, Willie Jackson, that was just a train wreck. Next minute, all the vultures came in, eh? Yeah, like to this day, and I watched it, I thought it was a good interview.
Yeah.
And like, I know what a train wreck interview is, you know, having been a media trainer myself. I know, you know, and I know I trained journalists. I thought, what did I do wrong? And so even Thomas Coughlin said to me, who's called it a train,
So he's a journalist.
He's a journalist,
right?
and he's quite a neat guy, actually. And I like him. And him and I become mates because he interviewed me on his podcast a few months later. And I said, yes, you mongrel, you know. You tried to destroy my career, you know. Because, like, it blew up. It blew up. Willie Jackson, this train wreck interview. And I thought, what's the train wreck, you know? And and so Jacinda said, she watched it, she says, oh, I don't know what's the train wreck. You want to say sorry? I says, yeah, I'll say sorry. You know, she was really good. I say, you got to just shut the noise down because what happens is all the vultures come in, eh? Luxon stands up, and I thought, what? So one sort of mistake, and they want my job, you know. But that's politics, eh? I tell you, that's probably been the only stressful time because I was a bit stunned by it. But what I was also really pleased about was the support. So Jacinda was hugely supportive. Grant Robinson was supportive. The team was like, you know, because I don't make many mistakes in politics. But the haters come in, you see. So the haters come in and they go, see that Willie Jackson? He's so dumb. He's so dumb. He's just a dumb Māori. And I thought, I'm pretty good, actually. You want to watch some good interviews? You know, like I've done a lot of good interviews.
Yeah.
I had my own TV show, did 120 shows, you know, for over 6 years. So, no, I do know how to interview, and it was just mightn't have been your interview, but the haters come in, eh? And they go, oh, this is it, Willie Jackson's finished. Oh, I tell you, it just drove me nuts. So it was a bit of a stressful time, but when you watched it, you would have thought, what was so bad about that interview?
Yeah, because I read the article that you're talking about, and then I watched the interview, and I thought it was measured and fine.
Jack won't say it. I says, go on, Jack, go and make a statement. I says, I'll show you an email that you sent me saying, great interview, you know. Jack couldn't believe it. You know, and so these things happen, and you just have to be resilient. But if you want to talk about train wreck interviews, you watch the Winston interview, man. When Jack and him went toe to toe, I've never seen anything like it. Winston was like, it was just insulting him, threatening him,
called him a dirt trader over and over again. Whatever a dirt trader is.
And then I said to Jack, one thing that happens though, after when we finish those sort of interviews, Jack. When I finished with you, I got promoted a month later. Winston, he was a train wreck. He became the Deputy Prime Minister. So the key is, same with Oreni Kaipara, who's just recently become the new MP for Tāpaki Bakoda. Bit of a train wreck interview a month ago. I really like it. I didn't think it was that bad. Others are going, on train wreck. She wins the election hands down. So the key is go on Jack Tame's show and everything will be fine.
If the reporters think you did an appalling job, it's probably a good sign.
That's right.
What's your relationship like with Hosking and Heather at ZB? Have you blacklisted Heather? Did I read somewhere?
Well, I'm back talking to her.
Okay.
I made a decision talking to her. Well, I got a bit upset with Heather because we were sort of mates on Radio Live. But for some reason, she can get, all of a sudden she get nasty all the time. And I got really, and I wouldn't have I just decided not to talk to her. What actually happened, mate, was when I got that Oxford invitation, all the haters coming, he'll disgrace New Zealand. He'll do this, do that. And I just laugh at it. I go, oh, we'll see haters. We'll see who does well there. What had happened, though, was my daughter was listening to Heather and she rubbished me on. She goes, Willie, what's he going over to? And my daughter came, and then that's when I got a bit upset because I thought, no, I don't know why is Willie go, Willie, can Willie talk and all that? And I thought, oh, yeah. And so, when my daughter, I thought,
a cheap shot.
Yeah, I thought, why you do that, and then. So I thought, no, I'm not talking to you anymore, Heather. So that was 12 months, and now I'm back talking with her again. But in fact, when we won the debate, Barry Soper sent me a text, because I've had a reasonably good. Look, when Barry was sick, I was sending. I had a heart bypass too. So I sent Heather, I've been through what Barry went through. So I just felt a bit, stuffy, I don't need to talk to you, But she's, I've decided to talk with her again because, she's out there. In terms of Hoskins, he won't talk to me. He boycotted me. I used to talk to him. We've tried I haven't talked to him for 5 years. And you know what? JT again. JT again. So what happened? JT again. So what happened was, but Mike go, look, I'd go on a show. We tried several times when I was broadcasting minister, but they oh no, and then I tried to be a regular on his show, and they said no, we're not having Willie Jackson. But what had happened was, Mike goes on to the thing and he goes on to the show and he goes, this is how it works. Willie goes to Parliament, he gets the money, he gives it to JT puts it in the bank, and then Willie, he goes and says this. So JT goes, straight, you apologise or it's defamation, eh? No, they don't do anything, right? Hello. They did apologise. So ZB did the apologise, and guess who did the apology? Mike Hoskins. Mm-hmm. Now, why he's got the thing with me is because I provided an affidavit, absolutely, because you don't defame me on there. So that all went to court, and next one they go, oh no, Mike will apologise, and there will be a settlement. And so JT goes to court. JT goes to court and gets it's all confidential. I'll tell you off here how much he got. And then JT says, he goes, well, that'll be going to the Māori Party campaign. Thanks very much, Mike Hoskins. And then, of course, I haven't been on the radio ever since. I know the guy's got the top show in the country. Of course I'd go on. And do I have a reasonable relationship with him? Well, I do this NZ Meet thing every Friday. I saw him the other week. He come over and shook hands. But the bugger won't have me on, Yeah,
You've been blacklisted.
I think he's nervous. That's all. I guess he knows. Yeah. Well, he's not my politics or anything, right? But he's a professional interviewer, and I give him that. No doubt about it. But old Heather. One thing with Heather, old South African, learning Māori. Did you know that?
Is she?
Yeah, well, she was talking. Wow. I couldn't believe it about 3 years ago, speaking Māori to me, and I was saying to some of my staff, "You fellas better watch out. Heather can speak better Māori than you." She's good on it though, eh?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, but
she's talented. She's a good broadcaster.
Yeah, she's all right, I suppose. she was, So I don't know. Were you at the Radio Awards when I was a guest speaker?
When was that? What year was this?
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Did you see that one when me and Hoskins were having a crack at each other?
Yes.
We had a bit of fun that night.
Yeah, it was good fun.
His wife wasn't too happy.
Oh, really, Kate?
Because I said I want to thank Kay for all her contributions to Māori broadcasting. And there was a big hush in the. Well, I thought I'd got to have a crack at Mike. He keeps having a crack at me, eh? And then he comes on the stage. He goes, "Oh, fair cop, Willie," shakes hands. So all good. Then she goes in the paper and says, "Willie Jackson hates Park Owls, hates us who don't support Māori." I don't, not at all. I'm just having a crack at her because her husband had a crack at me. And I thought she was a good broadcaster, and that was a good night that night, eh?
Yeah. Shit, these are great yarns. You're a great storyteller. Why wouldn't they want you on his show?
I reckon me and Hoskins would be great.
100%.
I straightened him out, but it was funny actually because I'll tell you another story. When I was broadcasting minister, we had this release, and I did something, and I says, I used to work for Radio Live, and I did a bit of stuff for ZB. And Hoskins goes on the next day, and he goes, now, Willie Jackson said he did a bit of work for ZB. I can't recall him doing that, but we're going to find out. And then they get back in touch with us, and then my team said, well, Willie, I'll come on and explain when he did it. And they said, Mike would just like to know, what year did he work for ZB? And then I said to my crew, don't say nothing, just say, no, we're not saying nothing. And then I go, but Mike wants to know. And I said, you tell them to say to Mike, Willie's a liar, and he's lying about working with ZB. Tell him to say it. But he didn't say it, because I thought, you say it, well, there's some more defamation coming your way, son. We'll see how good you are, So because he said Willie Jackson didn't work for ZB. Oh yes, well no, I didn't actually, but I had a little part time. I said I didn't have a big job there, but I used to just do commentary. Holmes used to get me on. And then I did about 18 months with Kerry Woodham. She had what was called Kerry's Caff, and I used to be her political contributor. So, but I didn't want to tell him that,
Yeah.
But do I have proof? Well, I used to get paid for it. Yeah. So is that proof?
Yeah, you got the receipts.
Yeah, that's right. And Holmes used to have me on, and so I wasn't saying I was a reporter or anything, but he tried to. And when Radio Live came along, I got offered a midnight slot. I says, who was the guy running? Who was the main man at ZB? He was the overall boss.
Bill Francis.
Bill. So Bill rings me. So I got on well with Bill. He's a good guy. Willie, don't go to that Radio Live. Come over here. I says, well, what slot you got? Midnight to 6. I said, get lost, Bill. I says, you only put the Maoris midnight to 6. And he goes, you always pull the Maori trick. We'll get you an earlier, but you got to do your time. But don't go on Radio Live. I heard they're trying to get John Tamihere. We can set you up here at ZB. I says, yeah, just put the Maoris on the midnight shift, Bill. Go jump in the lake, But a good guy, Bill,
Great guy.
Yeah, no, but Bill knew. I mean, they knew, because Holmes used to do I'd do commentary with him. When Holmes used to have his TV show in the 90s, I was his most frequent guest on his TV show in the 90s. And then, it was great because in those days you didn't have all the social media. So you'd go on the Home Show, you get like 1 million people watching you.
Yeah.
I'd be walking around South Auckland the next day getting big phone calls and like beeps from cars, going to the pub, free beers. Because, I would have been on the Home Show about 7 times in 1 year, which is a lot, 6, 7 times, talking about Maori this, Maori that. I thought, there's a real market there, And so, as for that ZB, but I respect them as broadcasters and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
You mentioned before something that I didn't find in any of my research, the heart issue. When did you have heart issues?
Oh yeah, 2008. 2008.
Oh, ages ago. So you're in your late 40s.
47.
What happened?
Remember Len Brown went down?
Yeah.
Well, you know what Len Brown was up to, eh?
Oh, you with that lady in the Ngāti Whātua room?
Yeah, anyway, apparently he had the heart. He died. He died long after. Might have been the shock of the lady in the Ngāti Whātua room. Who knows? There was a TV show on there, eh?
Yeah,
anyway, the wife says to me, she says to me, you better go and get checked, and I says, why? And she goes, you're so busy, you're doing radio, I says, no, I'm all right. So I go and get checked. And then the guy says, geez, your heart's pumping, you're blocked like 85%. And I says, what? And he goes, you're blocked. I says, what does that mean? And he goes, that means that, you could go any minute, or you could get lucky and live for the next 25 years. And he goes, but I'd say you could go any minute, which means I would say... I mean, he says, I couldn't be sure, but I says, well, how sure are you this? And he goes, well, I reckon 50-50, He says, that's pretty high, isn't it? This is the doctor. He says, I says, yeah, but I could go 20, Maoris, they just go on and on and on. He goes, you better do something, eh? So wife, Tans and John, JD, because we're on radio, goes, he's Mr. Heart expert. You better get it done next. What did I do? I do a bypass, 2008. Sainsbury, you know Mark Sainsbury?
Yes.
Sainsbury was doing close-up. We're good mates, I haven't seen him for a long time. or follow you into the surgery, brother. And I says, what for? I'm not going on your stupid show, because he took over from Paul Holmes, you see. He goes, no, brother, well, it'll be great. Willie Jackson goes into the... I said, well, what if I die? What if I die? And he goes, oh, even better. I said, you're a bastard, Seymour. You're a bastard. He goes, oh, no, don't die, though, don't die. I go, you'd like me. Oh, geez, that'd be great. That'd be good. No, I don't think we'll be able to take the cameras in when you have... I said, of course you won't be able to. But he goes, no, we'll interview you before you go in and all that. Anyway, so I have the bypass. We have the interview. It's all done. Come out, he interviews me after, so it was all good. And then I went home, and then I nearly died. All right, because I had a infection. Wow. And I was bleeding, and they shot me back in. I paid for this thing privately. I didn't go public. Paid for it privately, 2008, and they got me in, and they got me just in time. And then and I said to the doctor, I pay all those thousands of bucks, and I still nearly died. And they had put me on antibiotics for 3 weeks. In the hospital, 3 weeks, Auckland Hospital, and they had to whack the antibiotics in 4 times a day, clean me out. Incredible. Jesus. And then they had to do another operation, and they, I tell you, I was exhausted. They'd be waking me up at 3 a.m. Got to take your antibiotic, Mr. Jackson. It's incredible. And so I got the what's the infection you get in the blood? Yeah. I got an infection, and I was so lucky. And I come out, but old Sainsbury had his TV show, and then he plays the TV show because Close Up, took over after Holmes, and then I rang Sainsbury up, and I says, yeah, I nearly died. He goes, what happened? And he says, I'm in effing hospital, Oh Jesus, shall we do an update? I says, oh, just stay away from me, Sainsbury. You're bad luck, because he goes, Willie Jackson came out of the surgery really good, we done it up, and they showed me talking, and then I rang him the next thing. I said, "Oh, we've got to do an update." I was F off, get it lost, Sainsbury. Take a hike, mate.
But you're in good shape now, though, eh? You're 64.
Yeah, I'm 64 now. Yeah, no, well,
you got good energy.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, rugby injuries are. I was saying that to my wife. Geez, in the last year I got a sore foot. Yeah. Feet start playing up, then the hip starts playing up. That's been playing up for the last 3 years. Then the right shoulder plays up, then the left shoulder plays up. Then my eyes, I've got to get some cataracts done. And I'm thinking, what's happening to me? You go from, because I was walking all the time before, but generally you're all right. But it's funny as you age, eh? But I'm inspired by guys like Winston. Mm. Winston he's 18, he's 16 years older than me. He's incredible. Jonesy's Shane's 66, and, I think age is just it's just a figure, I think, because for me, people talk about retiring at 65 and all that. I couldn't imagine retiring. Whether, if I'm not doing politics, I'll be involved in my organisation, which is Manukau Urban Māori Authority. We've got our own marae, and I love the work we do. Love working with the people. So, I couldn't imagine just retiring. Too much to do.
You got to do something, eh? I had Laurie Mains on the podcast recently. 79. He's in great shape. Gets up in the morning, does some exercises, shoots his own age in golf.
He was my favourite coach,
Is he?
Oh, yeah, well, because, I was a sports broadcaster too, see, for years. I always used to stick up for Mains because all of the Aucklanders loved John Hart. But Mains gave guys like Frank Bunsen there a chance, and Aaron Penny and Eric Rush. And Mains was a great coach. God, he was a bit hard on... the Bok coach, wasn't he?
Razzie Erasmus.
Yeah. Oh, right. What, he sort of dishonest and everything. I said, Laurie, Yeah.
He's very dishonest, not a nice person. I don't want to get into it, though.
Because I follow, I'm a rugby nut, total rugby nut. I love rugby. My grandfather was an All Black, and I feel I know more about rugby than just about anyone you know. And I used to. I used to travel overseas, commentating. I went to South Africa in '94. I used to follow them, go with the Māori. So I've done all that sort of stuff. So for me, even now, rugby's my relaxation. And so there's certain people who stood out for me, and Mains was always one of them. This Razor, though, God, he's you better get him in here if he loses next week. By goodness, something wrong there, isn't? Do you follow rugby?
Yeah, closely.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've got a problem with the coach. The best coaches they should have had was Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown. They would have been fantastic. Dave Rennie's another great coach. We got coaches. It's just Wayne Smith is fantastic.
Yeah, I just had Warren Gatland on as well. He's just kicking at the beach and
Gats is good. He was real good. He just got a bad run with Wales. I've always been a fan of his too. His guy who took over from the Chiefs was one of our mates. He's gone over to Munster now. I think it's over in Munster. He was the Chiefs coach before.
Yeah.
One of our crew. So Gatland was. He was a hell of a coach, but he just started having a bad run in the last couple of years. But when we have those sort of coaches, you got to ask. And Joe Smith, fabulous coach. And then this guy comes along. I don't know what Razor's doing. I think he lacks. You've got to have a bit of nerve, eh? Maine's had nerve. You got to try stuff. Maine's put Mark Ellis at first 5. Never worked. It never worked. Mark's better at the centre. No, but what I'm saying, you got to. This is what this Russie does. You try stuff. He just goes with Bowden at first 5. Why would you do that sort of stuff? Obviously it's not working. He got to go with D-Mac, and you got to take some risks with D-Mac, and then bring Ruben Love on and try guys. That's what the great coaches do. So I think what this Razor needs is he needs some support. They need Wayne Smith with them all the time. We'll get him out. The other thing is, Hardy is clearly the best captain. Hey.
100%.
I like
He's
Scott.
incredible.
Scott Barrett, good player that he is, but I wouldn't even put Scott in the side right now. You got 2 better locks than him, But Artie's just fantastic. But and it's we get crazy. The All Blacks are still pretty good, but their box are just better, But we're probably second or third,
Geez, you're passionate, eh?
Oh, I love
so
rugby.
animated about it. What's your definition of happiness these days?
Oh, I love it. I just love it with my being with the wife and I enjoy it with my kids and my mokapunas. We've got about 8 mokapunas. 8, I think. Yeah. And
From what sort of age range?
From baby to 16.
Yeah.
Yeah, to baby to 16. Yeah, so it's just fabulous, and so I enjoy it with them, and I enjoy it with my wife Tans, and so they're my relaxation, enjoying stuff, and then. Rugby is also a relaxation, but if they play bad...
I don't know, you seem pretty stressed out about it.
It starts irritating me, and I get angry, and I start watching the league. I've been watching that Penrith lately. They've been fabulous, eh? You've been watching Penrith
I watched
and the Broncos?
I watched the semi-final over the weekend. That was an amazing game.
And I love watching the league because you see all those Māori boys playing, all those Māori boys who've been over there. And so watch Melbourne against the Broncos coming up this weekend. It's going to be great. But those Warriors drive me nuts, though, eh? God, they're hopeless.
Yeah, they break your heart.
I always say to all my mates, you guys are mad. And they go, up the wires. I go, oh my God, I see,
Are you not a fan of the up the wires movement?
No, they drive me crazy because I thought, you guys, they all my mates say, Dale Husband, I don't know if you know Dale Husband. I says, they so let us down, They're the biggest disappointments around, but I suppose they're good. We've been going since 1995. I went to the first game. 1995. We never won a premiership. And we've been around longer than Melbourne and the Broncos. Oh,
yeah, 30. I didn't know it was 30 years. That's a long time. Yeah. Do you like yourself? Are you someone that you'd want to have a beer with?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I'm just me. I like people, and I think I'm okay. It's a funny thing that... depression stuff, eh? I've never really gone through it, but I've watched a lot of people go through it. I can understand it a bit.
That's why I asked before about the Roastbuster stuff, which...
that was a test. That was a real test.
Yeah. Like if you can stay strong and resilient mentally through that, then you can survive most things, I think.
That was a real test. And, but I always... I like to keep busy, and one of the challenges of being in opposition, and you're not in government and that, it's keeping busy. So I like to keep. That's why when Oxford came along, that was great to go along, and I'm organising things for our party, and I'm a real supporter of Chippy, Chris Hipkins. I'm really proud of him. I don't think he gets a fair crack from the media and all that. I think he's a good man and solid, and I think he can be the Prime Minister again. I get a lot of pleasure out of supporting people like that and bringing young ones through. So. That's what I got to be busy all the time, So
Are you?
I can't just sit there and look at the blinking TV all day and night.
Are you a goal setter? Like, have you got goals for like the rest of your 60s or your 70s, or you just see what sort of comes your way?
No, I sort of have goals.
Yeah.
I've always had goals in life. I had goals from the time I failed at school till moving all the way through, because I remember you sort of get written off. You get written off at different times, and that's what inspires me, really. People who write you off, or I never forget working in the works, and I was like 18, 19, and this guy said, "Oh, you're just a labourer. You're not going to do it. You're not going to go anywhere." I said, "You think so, eh?" Because he was a meat inspector, and because that was the time, and that sort of stuff inspires me. It's like
it's fuel.
It fuels you, eh?
Yeah.
And on social media, the haters who hate Māori so much, and I was thinking about it, and I don't think that's a huge group, but it's a significant group, and that's why I said with David, guys like David Seymour, he fuels that group. I'm not saying he's part of it. I don't think he's ugly like that. He can be quite cordial, but he doesn't know that some of those supporters, they just so hate us, and I just think they want us to die, They just want us. They do. Well, I could show you emails for the last 25 years. I've had threats you wouldn't believe. So many times, when I was on radio, I'd say, "Here's my phone number. I'll wait for you here." I can't stand people who threaten you.
Yeah.
Because you might not believe this, but when I've been out there over the years, and I suppose I've had a pretty high profile, I've never been threatened by anybody. I've never been abused or insulted, believe it or not.
No, I do believe it. I do believe it.
And I walk to pubs. I meet probably more people than any, And, I just, people come shake hands. I'm sure I go into places and people don't like me, but, Kiwis are pretty respectful. If they don't like you, they keep a distance. I do the same too. I wouldn't go over to someone and say, "Oh, I hate you," It happened once, actually. It's only happened once. Ellie Moore and I were doing a show in Christchurch, and this guy came up, and he was looking at me, and he started doing sign language to me, and he started saying, "I don't like you." and I said, "What'd you say?" And he goes, "I don't like you." And I said, "What'd you say, mate?" And we were just about to start the show, and Ellie's looking, and I said, "Just stay there." I took my headphones up, stood up, and I went over. I was going to crack him one day, and he ran off, and I chased him. I couldn't get him. But
you weren't actually going to crack him.
I was going to crack him when he got on my nerves.
When was the last time you threw a punch?
Oh, a few years now.
Oh, yeah?
A few years now. But, I was going to crack him. I was so angry with him, I was so angry with him, I tell you. But, that's about the only, like I go into pubs, restaurants, and I always have good Kiwis always coming over. So I always think, that's why I say to my son, who we talked about, Hiku's his name, Hikurangi, never worry about those sort of things. And I told my daughter after Heather said that thing about Oxford, never worry about them. We know what we can do. They just want us to die. They classify people, they look at people like me and they go, "Oh, he's dumb. Māori's a dumb, he can't talk. Oh, look at that Jack Tame." They never give you any bit of credit. And that sort of thing, I always say we use that sort of thing to fuel us.
100%.
Yeah, we'll see who's dumb. He's a radical, he doesn't hate sport. Oh, cut it out. I love Pākehās. I got a Pākehā whakapapa too. Where do you think the Jackson side came from, So I'm really proud of Māori and Pākehā in this country. I think we've got a lot to be proud of in this country.
Yeah. Yeah, things seem quite divided at the moment, but for the most part, people are good, eh?
Yeah, I mean, David will tell you that things are divided.
Yeah,
that's because of his crackpot mob. Who like if he'll say, "I've this nonsense about a partnership." Well, why is it nonsense? Go to Ngāti Whātua and look at how they work on the beaches with Aucklanders in New Zealand. Go to Tūwharetoa and you'll see how they work. We've got a great partnership and relationship. That's why if you look at the issues that upset New Zealanders, you'll find that Māori issues are very low down.
Yeah.
So David and them go, "Oh, it's terrible, this co-governance. It's terrible, this partnership." What's terrible? Every Prime Minister, whether National or Labour, has backed partnership since 87. If it was so bad, why isn't it up there when you look at the issues in front of New Zealanders? No, the issues in front of New Zealanders are cost of living, health, housing, jobs, education. Māori and Pākehā relationships way down the list. It's just some of Seymour's rednecks who want it to be a big deal, and some of Winston's nut jobs, you know, and Kiwis don't care about that. As I say, I keep saying this. I said this at the Labour Party conference. I think a lot of the so-called middle of New Zealand, or you want to call it middle of New Zealand, but I'm saying average New Zealanders, I think has changed. There's been a change. We should embrace that. And they're embracing Māori culture. You go to Māori wānanga universities, more Pākehā are learning Māori than the Māoris. That's great. You know, that's what, you know, I have Pākehā people, they got their kids, relationships with Māori, their kids are learning Māori, but even Pākehā couples, so many of them they're so proud of everything. That's why I'm saying there's a lot to be proud of, nothing to fear, nothing to be scared of. And David and them are making such a load of nonsense in terms of New Zealand's going backwards since this partnership thing, and we're on edge. Well, you saw what New Zealanders thought about it. 100,000 of them march, or it might have been 80,000. It was the biggest march in the history of New Zealand. That's New Zealand. I don't see. Where's all your people, Mr. Seymour? I tell you where they are, on social media. The gutless wonders.
You're so passionate, eh? You're so passionate.
Well, they think they can scare you. You see, you know. I mean, I've been getting. You know, I'm not too bad on the social media. You know, I haven't done much. You know, I only do Facebook. Well, I got about 40,000 followers, so it's not bad. Yeah. You know, and they're all. I don't really do the Instagram and the other ones. I just do Facebook. You know, and I just build it up. And let's not. I said, is that enough for me? I've got about 40,000 followers, not too bad, and they're all activists, and they're not, you know, and they're Labour Party people, they're Green people, they're Māori Party people, and they just want an avenue to talk about the cost of living. They're not worried about relationships and partnership. New Zealanders have told David Seymour what they think of his Treaty Principles Bill. That young fellow, Henry, even thought it was very division. That's the division. Yeah.
Geez, when you eventually finish with politics, it's going to be a huge loss, eh? Like, we need characters like you. I don't know. People that are prepared to, speak their mind, shoot from the hip. Well, what would you say your biggest flaws are?
You know, when I was younger, I think I was a bit too wild, you know. I was, you know, because you're young, you know. Like when I was younger, and I was a bit unforgiving. So you know, you got to remember I'm 64 now. But when I was 24, you know, I'd get a punch up at the drop of a hat, you know, because you know although I was a talker in terms of in terms of bouncers, I was the main talker, but I didn't mind having a punch up. I quite enjoyed that, you know. It was sort of part and parcel of being South Auckland. I thought, you know, you're just men, you know, you go and settle things, go and settle it outside. So, but I think through my 20s and 30s, I do think I was a bit too short, you know, in terms of my temper. And like I do, you know, my Uncle Sid used to negotiate. He used to give us tips. He'd always say controlled negotiation. I used to lose it a bit, you know. But I think as I came through, and as I got older, you know, you just get better and better. You know, you train yourself. You know, I trained myself in the media, you know, because I thought, there's openings there. In terms of flaws, I think that I try and read as much as I can. I think sometimes and I'm pretty good sometimes, so I always try and read something different all the time. That could be a flaw for me, you know, because you want to know about everything, eh? You know, so it's like, right, what's that Seymour really saying, you know, or, you know, what's happening in that, you know, what's Nicola Willis really saying, you know? Because I don't have the education that others have had, but I've learned my education has been through life, you know. So I mean, it's for others to say what my flaws are. Some might say I'm just too quick off the hip. Sometimes I don't know. Might be too, you know, shoot. You know, so I think that that was probably one of my flaws, but I've tried to pull it back a bit and always try to be supportive. I always try to be supportive of mates, particularly when you're in Labour.
Well, I had Sir Steve Hansen on the podcast a couple of months ago, and he's got a theory that for most people, their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. So for you, maybe that's speaking your mind.
Yeah, might be, because it can get you into. Yeah, that's right. Well, here's the thing: some people never speak their mind. Hey, some people never speak their mind, no. And then I look at it's funny. My wife and I, we're so funny. Our kids, they hate coming to dinner with us sometimes because if something's wrong, we'll tell the waiter. But I don't believe in disrespecting waiters or anything like that. I got a lot of respect, but if if the food's not good, but most people will just accept that, I never do. I thought, particularly if you go to a restaurant and you're paying big bucks, right? And so our kids, they just say, oh no, please don't
make a scene.
Don't make a scene. I mean, the thing is that things can. I've been in situations like that when I was younger. Next minute the whole thing just blows right up and you're in a punch up. But so I've pulled back from all that sort of stuff, But I think Steve Hansen's right. Sometimes you got to learn to curb yourself too. I think we all do. You got to know, And the last thing you should say, my daughter. I said to my daughter, there was this MP once. What was his name? She goes. I said, you know what he did, babe? And she goes, what? He went in and he said, do you know who I am? And she goes, don't ever say that. And I says, it's tempting sometimes. Do you know who that was? I'm trying to remember. It was one of John Key's MPs.
Oh, was it? Oh, my God, that's so cringe.
Yeah, I know.
That's the worst.
Key sacked him straight away, Oh. Do you know who I am?
Well, if you have to say that, then clearly they either don't or they do and they don't care.
They don't care. and then the other thing is you got to be, I think, you got to be humble, eh? I think you have to be humble, and people got to keep their. I think it's easy to get famous in New Zealand because it's a small country. But you don't want to be, sometimes, I say to people, as they go through life, I just don't get too carried away just because you think you're a big shot here at Parliament. Most people don't watch Parliament. They don't even know what we're doing down there, eh? You got to prove yourself everywhere. And then don't even think you're hot because most people live their lives in the bubble and they don't, so, and I say to people, you might think everyone knows you, but they don't. Yeah, I used to talk with Holmes about some of that stuff. I got to know Holmes quite well.
Yeah, because there's a guy that was proper famous. Everyone in New Zealand knew who he was.
Well, no, even he says so. He says we say. I says it's funny though sometimes, Paul. You think everyone knows you, and then I says I never forget. I told him the story. I did this great show with you, and they rated through the roof, and I went over to this place the next day and it was all Māoris there and somebody was at the door and I walked in and I go and I was feeling quite good because I was a star and the woman goes, yes, who are you? Really loud. So much for the bloody home show last night and you think of Māori woman so never get a big head in this game, because and I say that to my crew who are with me because when we go out there, everyone knows you. I says, no, they don't. You guys have got to stop thinking that. Some people do, It's not like that, eh? I says, you guys think that because a few people know you, It's most Kiwis, they just want to get on with their business, and even if they do know you, they don't want to annoy you, eh? Yeah. And so I think one of the keys, and Hansen would say it too, whether you're an All Black or politician, minister, if you don't stay humble, man, you're going to go down a tube, eh? You're going to go down a 100%. Because I think that's one of the problems. If you walk in and say, do you know who I am? You might be the top politician radio, doesn't it? And I'm inspired by people who are humble. I tell you, people like Michael Jones,
the Iceman.
Good, very good friend, really good friend, Went out to the Pacifica game and been mates for many years. inspired by people like that who are humble. Lovely seeing Ronnie Clark with his boy, you know.
Oh.
I know Ronnie, lovely man, and I thought, look at that. That's what makes me happy when I see that sort of stuff, you know. It's really, really good, you know.
You just said nice things about Michael Jones and Ronnie Clark without throwing in any jabs.
They're so lovely though. They're so straight. They're almost perfect. Old Michael. Michael's just so terrific, you know. Really proud of what he does, and life's fun. I mean, he's a good friend. He's not. I mean, he's the bro and all that, but he's not one of the bros who are going to have beer sort of thing, you know. So he's too perfect. Michael's so perfect, you know.
This has been such a great chat. Out of all the politicians I've had on, this has definitely been my favourite by far. Definitely the most laughs.
Got to have a few laughs. So you got to laugh in life, though, Dom.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're not laughing in a relationship, she's all over. Okay. If you're not laughing in a show like this, it's not a very good show. You know. I think humour's everything.
Yeah.
It's great how you get on with your wife. You guys.
Yeah, we run a business together. Yeah,
fantastic.
That's great. If say you went in the room and your 6 mokopuna were in here, what are 3 words you'd like them to say about you, to describe you?
Who, the mokopunas?
Yeah.
I think I've got 8 mokopunas.
Oh, 8. My bad.
3 words.
Yeah. Three words to sum you up.
Koro, they call me koro.
Yeah.
Koro is fun. That's all. That's enough. Because I like to have a bit of fun with them.
What about 3 different words like fun? So fun.
3 different words is what?
Like fun. So fun could be one.
Koro. Okay. Oh, I don't know.
Like a legacy sort of thing.
Oh, like a legacy. I always say to my mokopunas to make me proud. You know, and you know they gotta do stuff. So they always know they have to do well. You know, and so I always put that sort of pressure on them. But you know, it's about the balance, So it's just it's particularly with their Māori side. You know, I try to do well with my kids, you know, like my boy who's you talked about. We brought him up. We weren't talking English to him until he was about 11. You know, so we just spoke Māori to him. We're not that we're great Māori speakers, but you know, I'm so proud of our people. And my mokopunas, my young ones, they still don't talk English with me, and so there's 1, 2. I've got 1, 2, 3. 4 of them who just speak Māori too, you know. So that's really good. So it's like, you know, my legacy is about. I would like them to think that, you know, it's about being proud of who you are, and I also think they, you know, I like helping people. So you never give up. You don't give up. Never give up, you know, because I think that you can have barriers in front of you in life, but you can do anything if you want to. You know, you should. If you know, like I said last week, my friend lost the election. Who we were in Auckland, and I said to him, "Don't worry about it. We're all losers. You know, we all lose. And you know, through adversity, you grow." Winston lost. Shane Jones has never won an electorate. John Tamihere's lost. I lost. We're all losers. Don't worry about it, because through that adversity, you'll be strong.
Yeah.
So you got to learn through adversity. If you just collapse and fall apart, then you probably were in the wrong game anyway.
Yeah. Shit, it's been a hell of a life. That thick 14, 15-year-old school kid. What would he make of the life that you've had? You know,
I it's funny, you know, when I was a kid, even when I failed at school, I always thought I'd do right.
Did you?
I always, even though I failed, I thought I'm going to change. I was totally determined to, because I thought, oh, well, I'm failed at school, but I ain't going to be standing in a factory all my life. I can promise myself that. And one thing I knew I could do was, I wasn't a bad speaker, you know, and I thought, the old voice, the old mouth might be able to carry me into positions and into opportunities, and it was, and it has been able to. I've been able to do that, but I'm also driven by, you know, I like to help people. I love supporting the underdog. I love advocating for people and helping people in their lives, and it's been a privilege to do that through my life in the union movement. Privilege in politics, music, sport, politics. What a privilege it was to get the type of funding that we got for our people. Never seen funding like that before. And I was the main negotiator for our Māori caucus. So those sort of opportunities, those are opportunities of a lifetime that, I've been proud to roll out. And so, it's, I always say to our young ones, there's so much to do. You might think you're in a hole now, but you put a plan in place. Me and my wife always say we put in a plan, and if you haven't got a plan, then you're just gonna go week to week. I reckon everyone's gonna have a plan, Dom.
I reckon that's probably a good place to end it. Any final words? Or?
Oh no, thanks very much. Oh. How much money you make here?
Not enough. Still spending the radio money.
Give me a ballpark figure. I've been looking at this sort of podcast sort of thing as a future,
Yeah. Oh, you can bring the old band back together.
Bring the old band back together. Oh, it's funny though, isn't it? Everybody's doing a podcast now, eh? Everyone's doing a podcast. Actually, are you the most popular one? You and those two beers or something?
Between two beers, they do a great. I think I'm like the Timu version of Between Two Beers. They're doing a great job.
Someone said that you and them are about the most popular.
Oh, is that right?
Type of podcast doing this type of corded away.
I think one thing we both have in common, me and Between Two Beers, we've both been going a long time. I've been going like 3.5 years. They've been going about 6 years, and we started independent, and we've just kept grinding away. Whereas the media companies, they'll start a podcast, they'll do 8 episodes, 10 episodes, and they'll get bored. But it's
that's what Ghana does, right? They've abandoned him.
He's doing all right now.
Haven't they abandoned him? I heard him asking for money. He asked for money the other day. No, he was because he's been booting. All he does is boot the Maoris, right? That's all Duncan does.
Oh, one trick pony.
Well, it's a bad experience. Had a bad experience with Māori woman, but anyway, we won't go there. A couple of wives, Māori woman, But hey, he's a good broadcaster too. But I see him struggling there. He's talking about he's got to get funding. What about Plunkett? Is he going to last? He lost all the richies.
I don't know. Is he going with a subscription model? That's for the platform, right?
But the
Wright family,
they've pulled. Yeah, I heard he's up to something, Old Plunkett, eh? Yeah. So no. So like, give me an idea how much money you're making.
I'll tell you.
A couple of 100,000 or half a mil or what? You're not going to tell us on here, right?
No, I'll tell you off there when you tell me how much you got as a defamation payment from ZB.
Hey, I never got a cent. It never came my way. All I got was banned by that Mike Hoskins. Come on, Mike, put me back on that show.
All right.
Okay, hey, good to be here,
It's
mate.
the first time we've met, mate. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, Willie Jackson, legend.